Okay, one thing that I did want to show when talking about creating a perspective that I forgot to kind of get to in the last video is when you start to put these on sheets and stuff. Now you can put these on sheets. Um, as you can see what I've done here, if I find one, if I can find that actual image, which is not that one, it's the last one. So this is the one, that viewport that I brought over. So basically, it kind of works. It works the same as any other type of view, where you just click on it and drag and drop it here, and then you can put it into place. Now, if you need to increase its size or anything like that, once you have it in the sheet and you click on it, you can see that there's a size prop, and you can obviously you want to scale it so the proportions stay the same. So when I change the width, the height will change automatically with it, as you can see, and then I can hit apply, and it will update the size of the image, so its scale is changed. Obviously, I had this as the full width as the board itself, so I did 30. That's why I had it as 36 inches. And then you can move that into place where however you need it to be positioned on your board. And this is again, I do touch this in the rendering video on how to render video that I created. But I like to actually set up my boards in Revit. So I have the black and white as the background image. So when I export these boards, not export but print these boards as PDFs, and when I go to open them in Photoshop, I have the background image, for the rendering already sized. So when I pull in the rendered image as a JPEG, or however you're bringing in the rendered image, I know proportionally how that needs to be stretched. And then also, once I do stretch it to match up with this behind it, I have the view, like I have the white, the black and white one as the background, which is sometimes easier to select certain areas if you need to update anything. So for instance, with this black and white for the sky, I can easily use the magic, is it magic? I think it's like magic lasso tool or something like that, or magnetic lasso tool in Photoshop to just click to select this top part of all the white. If I move this over so you can see without stuff behind it. So like I can use the, I think it's the magnetic lasso tool to select, just click here, click at, like, say this point, and it would automatically outline all of this stuff. So that's kind of the benefit of doing it like that. Again, that's a personal preference, and that's because I know how to use, Revit very well, and I actually knew how to use Revit before I knew how to use Photoshop. So I'm always better at doing a little bit, some things in Photoshop better than I like to do in photo, in Revit than I do in Photoshop. So you can start to see here, I start to set this up, I start to set this up like this for my board, and then export things into it. And I believe I just actually shared on Facebook some images of different things that I've created using Revit, and so this board that I created here, you can see this is actually the final board and how I've manipulated it in Photoshop. So the site plan with realistic I added in, and then I kind of just started to add some background to it. But you can also see there's, I believe it's, so this rendering right here, if you go look at this post that I shared on Facebook, so this is, so that's that image. So this is the image in black and white. This is what it looked like after I sent it to Photoshop. After I sent it to render in the cloud. And then this is what it turned into after we worked in groups on this project as well. This wasn't for Comprehensive Studio. This was for another studio. but we were still working in groups, and one of my team members actually rendered, photoshopped this image. So she took the cloud rendered image and photoshopped it this way. So you can see this is where trees and cars and people are added in using Photoshop, and vegetation like these hanging gardens. If you need to manipulate some materials, you can, to get it to look a little bit better. And then you can see how you can add the sky in and things like that. Same for this image, which is another image in this project where this is the rendered image from the cloud, and then what we turned it into using Photoshop to kind of add the hanging gardens and the trees and the sky background. Again, this is all set up, and this one, yeah. So that's that image right here. So you can see it was set up there, and so that's what it was and what it became. You can do the same thing for the interior, for an interior rendering. So this is what the rendering looked like when I sent it to Photoshop, when I sent it to render in the cloud, and then this is what it was turned into with Photoshop. You can see not much difference. So once you start to actually get to know Revit, you can do a lot of manipulating to get Revit to do what you want. Like, some people were amazed that I was able to get this ceiling to look like that in Revit. So you can see the ceiling, we didn't even have to add in Photoshop. I was just able to do it with Revit. And then this is something that you can do for a section. And you can see this is where I added in the background, as I showed you how you can do, if I go back to this 3D. So if you do graphic display options and do background and select image and then load in an image, you can get your section to look like this. But that's it for those images. I shared those on a Facebook page for the class, just recently, 8 minutes ago, for when I was doing this, creating this video. So you can always look at those to kind of compare if you want to go back and look at those. And I think that's it now for creating 3D perspective views. Oh, actually, the very last thing that I do want to show, that I was starting to show here, when you click on the rendering that you dragged and dropped onto a sheet, and you can do the size crop. You can actually do it from the view itself. So if you're actually in the view and you turn on the crop region, you can click on the crop region and hit size crop. And then you can see here you can actually adjust, the crop region as well. So if you start to stretch this a little bit more, or drag it down, you can see the height will change. And then, if you need to make it larger when you're on the sheet, you can. But usually when you want to scale it up, that's what you leave it to do in the sheet, so you can actually scale its size. And that's also the other reason why I like to set up the sheets using Revit, so I can start to see the layout, and I can see, how big that image needs to be before I render it. Because, you don't want to have this, say when you first create that perspective, this may be the scale of that image, where when you go to the when you actually look at it in the view, on the computer, that size, it looks okay. And then, maybe you render it now, and then when you try to, export it and then bring it into Photoshop, so you see it's that small, and then you try to stretch it up, and it kind of starts to get really grainy because it's not the right size. So that's why I like to set up boards, as I was saying, in Revit, because now I can actually gauge the size that image can be, this rendering can be, and I can adjust, now I can adjust its size and say, okay, I can actually make that the full width of the sheet, and I want it to scale proportionally. so that height and everything matches and the same proportion stays in. So now when I render it, it renders it at this size, and you don't have to scale it up when it's burned with Photoshop. It's already at the right size. So that's another benefit of actually doing it by boards. Setting up boards in Revit, if quickly, just to kind of get a layout for things and sizes, so you can scale perspective views and renderings to the proper size. And now that's it for